Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and today I want to address the difference between heirloom tools, vintage tools, and old tools. Occasionally, you might stumble across something old, and you decide, does this still have value? And often what you're thinking is, does this still work as a tool? And if it's a tool that you can use, then you start thinking, is this cool? And would I like to use it? Versus, is it less expensive, or maybe has some features that you like versus some of the new stuff, compared to maybe what I'd call heirloom tools. And these are tools that have special meaning that might have been passed down through the family, and it doesn't matter what they are necessarily as much as their kind of significance. And then finally, there are the vintage tools that you run into. And the vintage tools might be something that just looks cool or old. It may not have any real tool value, but has maybe man cave value or value that you use, to provide enjoyment, something like that. So what I've got here are some of what I would call more the heirloom tools. And let me start here. This I got from my grandfather. This is one of those old Ford T1917 wrenches. This was given away or included with some of the old Ford cars for adjustments. Not that unusual compared to some of the vehicles today. And these appeared in one of my previous videos. These are those Toyota wrenches that I got with my very first vehicle, which was a 1970 Toyota Land Cruiser. And when I got rid of the Land Cruiser, I actually kept the wrenches that came with it because they had significance to me. And are they any good? I'll show you that in another video. But it's more the meaning than the usefulness. So I thought this was a nice continuation from my grandfather through this tool. This is a tool that I got from my mother, who got from her father, who died in an explosion at a boiler in Chicago many, many years ago, actually when my mother was 6. And he was an engineer, and this is one of his squares. And this particular square actually has both useful value, but also significance to me, and then I'm going to pass it on as an heirloom tool. It represents that connection between generations. And this particular one was because he was an engineer, and that actually is a theme that moves through time. This I got from my dad. This was actually just a punch I remember using as a kid. Nothing spectacular about it. It's an inexpensive Stanley punch, wooden handle. But I remember using this, 50 years ago. And I have it now because my dad's not doing much with it anymore. Yes, he's still alive, but he's not doing any work. Plus, he has plenty of tools. This came from my grandfather through my father. And this is just one of those adjustable squares that allows you to make different kind of carpentry measurements and then replicate them with a saw or with as you're forming the angle between pieces of wood. It's just an old one. Nothing unusual, except I remember it. And I remember playing with it as a kid, and I remember seeing it in my grandfather's shop. So this is one of mine. I've had this forever. I got it when I was in high school. One of the first tool purchases, of course. And, I still keep it, and I'll give it away. Pass it on. So those are heirloom tools. Now, the question is, could this ever be an heirloom tool? This is just a regular Chinese-made Milwaukee pair of needle nose. Does this count? Does it matter? I mean, I don't know where this was made. I assume it's a Stanley made in America. This is an American-made Stanley. Japanese Toyota says so. In the fine print right here. Japan. Ford. These were made in America, obviously. Instead, I would think, given the choice between something like this Snap-on and this Milwaukee, that this might be more of an heirloom tool. But does that mean this can't be? And I guess it comes down to the significance. Will this ever be vintage? That's hard to believe. But, I guess I could see that in the future. It just doesn't seem to have that allure of vintage tools. This I could imagine, 50 years in the future being a vintage when we have like our 500 tooth ratchets, with an auto switch. You don't have to actually physically do it. You just kind of, push a button and it switches sides. But I could see that as a tool that would make it through the ages. The others, I don't know. I start to wonder about that. And one thing I will not do is buy tools figuring I'm going to pass them on to my kids. They can choose their own tools. I do not want to burden them with my tools because I don't know what they're going to need or where they're going to go with their tool needs. But in reality, sure, it'd be nice, but more than likely it might be something as simple as this, which I could get anywhere for not much money. But I do remember this as a kid, and that's what's important. Or knowing that this was passed down. My mother was 6 when her father died in an engineering accident, and this is what I have. That's it. And this got passed down through my mom's brother, and then to me, and then to my son. And then I borrowed it for this video. But that has meaning. So tools, there's the ones you use, the really nice ones that you use that think might make that leap, and then the unexpected ones, because you don't know for sure what's going to end up having significance in the future. So that's the difference, I think, between vintage tools, kind of heirloom tools, and just old tools. Tools that, that have served a purpose, that have done their job. And what I like to think about when I get a tool, I'm going to use it as hard as I can. Hopefully I'll use it up. If I don't, maybe it'll have some value to somebody in the future. But I'm never going to buy something thinking this will be important to somebody else. No, it's just for me at the moment. So with that, Doc out.